You're at the mall. It's Saturday afternoon. And the moment you step through those doors, something inside you tightens. The noise, the bodies, the chaos. People bumping into you, walking too slow, stopping in the middle of hallways, the fluorescent lights, the overlapping conversations, the smell of too many perfumes mixing with food court grease. And everyone else? They seem fine, shopping, chatting, scrolling their phones, completely unbothered. But you? You're counting the minutes until you can leave. Your chest feels tight, your head starts to hurt, you're scanning for exits, and some part of you is screaming, "Get me out of here." If you hate crowded places, if the thought of a concert, a busy restaurant, or even a packed grocery store makes you want to stay home, this isn't about being antisocial. This isn't about being difficult. This is about how your brain processes the world, and once you understand why, everything changes. Let me describe something you've probably felt 1,000 times. You're somewhere crowded, and while everyone else is having a good time, you're hyper-aware of everything. The person standing too close behind you in line, the group blocking the aisle, the volume of every conversation layering on top of each other until it sounds like static. Your brain isn't filtering anything out. It's taking in every single input, every sound, every movement, every smell, and it's trying to process all of it at once. While other people's brains have a built-in spam filter that deletes 90% of sensory information, yours is recording everything. And that's not a flaw, that's a feature, but it comes at a cost. Psychologists call this sensory processing sensitivity, and approximately 15 to 20% of people have it. You're not imagining the overwhelm. Your nervous system is literally perceiving more data than most people's brains ever register. Think about it like this. Most people walk into a crowded space and their brain says, "Okay, there are people here, some noise, moving on." Your brain says, "There are 47 people in this room, 3 conversations happening to your left, someone's wearing cologne that smells like your uncle's funeral. The lights are flickering at a frequency that's giving you a headache, and the person 2 rows behind you just sighed in a way that suggests they're annoyed." You're not overthinking, you're overperceiving, and there's a massive difference. But it's not just about volume. It's about control. In a crowded place, you control nothing. You can't control how close people stand. You can't control the noise level. You can't control when someone's going to bump into you or block your path or invade your space. And for people who need predictability, who need personal space, who need to feel safe in their environment, that loss of control is terrifying. This is why you might be perfectly fine at a small dinner party but completely overwhelmed at a wedding reception. Same social activity, different level of control. Psychologists link this to something called locus of control. People who hate crowds often have a strong internal locus of control, meaning you feel most secure when you're in charge of your environment, your decisions, your space. Crowds strip that away, and your nervous system interprets that loss of control as danger. Here's where it gets deeper. For many people who hate crowds, the aversion didn't start randomly. It started in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic household where there was always noise, always people, always demands on your attention, and the only way you survived was by retreating, by finding quiet corners, by learning that peace existed in solitude, not in quantity. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you grew up isolated and crowds feel foreign, overwhelming, like a language you never learned to speak. Either way, your nervous system formed an association. Crowds equal stress. Quiet equals safety. And now, as an adult, even when you're in a crowd for something fun, your body doesn't feel joy. It feels alert, on guard, awaiting for the threat that your past taught you was inevitable. Neuroscience shows that people with crowd aversion often have heightened amygdala activity. That's the part of your brain responsible for detecting threats, And when you're in a crowded space, your amygdala is firing constantly, flagging every unpredictable element as a potential danger. You're not being dramatic. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from perceived threats. But here's the part most people miss: it's not just the crowd itself, it's what the crowd represents: loss of identity. Think about how you feel when you're alone versus when you're in a crowd. When you're alone, you're you, fully. Your thoughts are your own. Your space is your own. You exist as an individual. But in a crowd, you become part of a mass. Your individuality dissolves. You're just another body in a sea of bodies. And for people who value their autonomy, their uniqueness, their sense of self, that erasure feels like a threat to their very existence. Psychologist Carl Jung talked about this. He believed that crowds have a kind of collective unconscious that can overwhelm individual identity, that when you're in a crowd, you're not just dealing with other people, you're dealing with a collective energy that can drown out your own. And if you're someone who's fought hard to know yourself, to build your identity, to understand who you are beneath all the noise, surrendering that to a crowd feels like betraying yourself. This is why introverts and highly sensitive people aren't just drained by crowds, they're destabilized by them. Now let's talk about something even more uncomfortable: the emotional contagion effect. When you're in a crowd, you're not just processing your own emotions, you're absorbing everyone else's: their stress, their excitement, their anxiety, their joy. And your brain can't differentiate between what you're feeling and what you're picking up from the people around you. Studies show that emotions spread through crowds like viruses. One person's panic can trigger another's. One person's anger can amplify the whole group's tension. And if you're someone with high empathy, high emotional sensitivity, you're not just observing this, you're downloading it. You're carrying the emotional weight of 40 people you don't even know. No wonder you feel exhausted after an hour at the mall. You've been processing the emotional data of an entire crowd while everyone else is just shopping. But here's what makes this even harder. Society tells you that avoiding crowds means you're missing out, that you're antisocial, that you're afraid of life. But you're not avoiding life. You're protecting your nervous system from overload. You're choosing environments where you can actually be present instead of spending all your energy just trying to stay regulated. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you what people who hate crowds actually are. You're not weak, you're perceptive. You notice things others miss. You feel things others ignore. You process the world at a depth that most people never access. You're not antisocial, you're selectively social. You prefer meaningful one-on-one connections over surface-level interactions with dozens of people you'll never see again. You're not boring, you're intentional. You choose quality over quantity, depth over distraction, peace over performance. And most importantly, you're not broken, you're just wired differently. Your brain prioritizes safety, space, and sovereignty. And in a world that worships crowded events, constant socializing, and nonstop stimulation, your preference for quiet feels radical. But it's not radical. It's self-preservation. So what do you do with this information? First, stop apologizing for it. Stop forcing yourself to endure crowded spaces just to prove you're normal. You don't need to prove anything. Second, understand your limits and honor them. If a crowded concert sounds like hell, don't go. If a packed restaurant ruins your meal, order takeout. If a busy mall drains you for 3 days, shop online. There is no moral superiority in suffering through environments that overwhelm your nervous system. Third, find your people, the ones who understand that a quiet coffee shop is better than a loud bar, the ones who prefer hiking to nightclubs, the ones who get that sometimes the best way to connect is in small, controlled, comfortable spaces. Because here's the truth: you're not missing out by avoiding crowds. You're choosing a different kind of richness, a quieter one, a deeper one. one that doesn't require you to sacrifice your peace just to belong. And finally, recognize this. The discomfort you feel in crowds isn't weakness, it's data. Your nervous system is telling you something important. It's saying, this environment doesn't serve you, and that's valuable information. Most people ignore their nervous system signals. They push through, they numb out, they force themselves to tolerate things that harm them. But you listen, you respect your limits, you understand that not every space is meant for you, and that's not avoidance, that's wisdom. So the next time someone calls you boring for skipping the crowded event, remember this. You're not boring, you're self-aware. You know what your nervous system needs to function. You know what environments allow you to be your best self. And you choose those environments unapologetically. That's not weakness, that's strength. Because in a world that's constantly demanding you show up, speak up, and keep up, choosing to step back, to stay quiet, to protect your peace, that's the most powerful thing you can do. You don't hate crowds because you're broken, you hate them because you're whole, and you refuse to let any environment fragment you. So stay home. Order delivery, skip the festival, choose the quiet restaurant. Take the early morning walk when no one else is awake. And know that every time you honor your nervous system instead of betraying it, you're not missing out. You're coming home to yourself. And that's where you've always belonged.